Hello and welcome to this India Today special as we are decoding the final budget of the Narendra Modi government in its tenure. And joining us now to give the other point of view is the former Finance Minister, Mr. P Chidambaram. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. Chidambaram. You've been, dare I say, excessively critical of this budget on various fronts, but primarily politically. It's not so much the economics that seems to trouble you, but the politics, because you immediately tweeted, soon after the budget was delivered by Piyush Goyal, that it was not a vote on account, but an account for votes. Is it the fact that the NDA has scored over you in electoral terms that troubles you?
Not at all. Not at all. They've breached time-honored convention. They have breached the authority given to them under the Constitution. A government is in office for 5 years. It can present 5 annual statements of revenue and expenditure. But here, they've tried to present a 6th budget. And they've made sweeping changes to the income tax laws and some other laws. I haven't looked at the fine print of the finance bill. This is unprecedented. Therefore, I say this is not a vote on account for 4 months. This is an account for votes.
You're effectively saying that the NDA government has delivered 6 budgets over 5 years.
Yes.
And you claim this is a break of convention.
Absolutely.
Now, your critics will argue, or the government argues, or that's what they tell us, is that Mr. Chidambaram in his 2014 interim budget made a last-ditch effort to boost the Congress's electoral fortunes by announcing OROP 1 rank 1 pension.
Yeah.
You announced excise duty cuts for the manufacturing sector, especially capital goods and automobiles. You made some minor tweaks to service tax.
No.
So Mr. Chidambaram has also in his 2014 budget made announcements.
What you don't read is also there. Look at that excise duty cuts. I said for the automobile industry and the capital goods industry, some changes are necessary in the excise duty rates, which didn't require any amendment to any act. It could have been done by notification any time. I said, I'm making it by notification, but I added a rider. This will be valid only for 4 months. As a temporary arrangement, let the new government come and decide whether the changes that I've made should continue or not. I did not amend any act. This is a notification under the Excise Act. Likewise, the service tax also is by a notification. Here you have gone and amended the Income Tax Act, which is never done in an interim budget.
You know, we can dispute this because...
How can you dispute it?
No, dispute this in the sense that every finance minister in his last budget looks to woo the electorate. We've seen it in the past. It's not as if we could argue that in the Congress's case, for example, 2008, 9 months before the 2009 election, you announced the massive farm loan waiver.
That was in the regular budget of 2008. Regular budget. You forget that. That was in my last regular budget for 2008-2009, not in the interim budget of 2009.
So what you are saying is you can, in a sense, woo the voter at any stage you want, but not in the last 3 months. That your last budget, you are claiming cannot...
Example,
yes.
I'm not quarreling with their so-called vision statement. That you can say. But if under each dimension of your 10-point vision statement, education is missing, be that as it may, under your 10-point vision statement, if you announced a scheme and then provided for an allocation for that, all that would be hopelessly illegal.
So your primary contention is that the amendments that have been made to the Income Tax Act is where you believe this budget has failed to remain an interim budget and has become a full-fledged budget. Because the Constitution, sir, is silent on this entire issue.
The Constitution is silent on many things. But the law of the country is where the Constitution is silent, the conventions will prevail. Why have we built a republic or tried to build a republic of a rule of law to prevail in the republic for 70 years if someone can come and simply demolish it?
You know, Pranab Mukherjee, Interim Budget 2009, extended the interest subvention scheme to allow exporters to receive pre- and post-shipment credit. This was to help battle global recession at the time. The government also claims that the steps that they've taken at the moment are because they are in the larger interests of the economy. The farmers needed support. The middle classes needed support. We have put cash in the hands of people. This will trigger consumer demand. They've put it within the wider context of the national interest.
Everything, of course, is in the national interest. People will have to decide whether it's in their interest. The farmers of this country will decide whether a measly sum of 17 rupees per day per family of a farmer is in the national interest, or is it throwing crumbs at the farmers?
Isn't that a bit unfair? When you come to 17 rupees a day,
it is true.
I mean, you have effectively for the longest time said this government is ignoring the farmer. Now the government comes and says we are going to give 6,000 rupees per year to farmers owning less than 2 hectares of land, and you said 6,000 is not enough, it's only 17 rupees a day.
If you want to believe Mr. Goel, they've already given 2,000 rupees from December 1, 2018. How that miracle was achieved?
They're saying they'll give it retrospectively. They are saying they will give it in 3 installments.
I want to ask you,
starting retrospectively.
I want to ask you, listen, I want to understand this. How can you give retrospectively? You have not given it. What is giving it retrospectively? You can only give it tomorrow.
They will give it before the code of conduct kicks in.
Therefore, why did you have to mention December 1? What is the relevance? You could have said, I'm giving it on 1st February. Why did you have to mention December 1? They're trying to pull the wool over the eyes of the Election Commission. So this is a scheme which came into effect on December 1. Did it? I mean, I'm sorry to use strong language. It's a lie, a blatant lie to say the scheme came into force on December 1. Did they announce it on December 1? Where did they get the date December 1, I want to know. Nobody's got an answer to that. You say 1st February, I have no quarrel.
How will you respond to those who will say that this is nitpicking? That the Congress is, nitpicking in the sense when you say 17 rupees a day.
That's true.
When you say that, why have you backdated it to December 1? The government will say, here is the opposition, which for the longest time has been telling us, you need to do something for the farmer. We go ahead and give a 75,000 crore bonanza. The government now, the opposition comes and says, it's too little, too late.
It is. Ashok Gulati has said in an article, a signed article today, the exact words you're using. Too little, too late. You have allowed the farmers very, very minimum MSP for 4 years. You try to make it up in the last year. There's no procurement machinery in many of the states, and these are mainly BJP ruled states, but there are other party ruled states. Prices of products have crashed, onions for example. You extract from the farmer, I saw a calculation which said 24,000 rupees on an average farmer, fertilizer prices, seed prices, electricity, diesel, harvest cost, and farm labor wages. They worked out a calculation and say on average a farmer has suffered an additional burden of 24,000 rupees per year, and you say I'll give 6,000 rupees a year?
Where will that 24,000 rupees come from? What would the Congress have done differently to assuage the need of the farmer? You've come to power in 3 states. What was the first thing you did? We are waiving off loans. Surely that is also no solution.
That is not a solution, but that is imperative. As I've said repeatedly, farm loan waivers are contextual and state-specific. Dr. M.S. Swaminathan said that. If the average debt of a farmer today, 90,000 rupees, how will he ever repay the debt? He has sunk into debt deeper and deeper over the last 5 years, or even say longer. Someday somebody has to relieve him of that debt, clean the slate so that we can start doing institutional and structural reforms. As long as the farmer is under a debt burden of 90,000 rupees, it is absolutely necessary, imperative I'll say, that that debt be wiped out, which is what our state governments have done, which is what Maharashtra attempted to do under the BJP government. But don't pit loan waiver versus institutional structural reforms. They're not antithetical to each other.
No, institutional structural reforms is a nice word you use, because you quoted Ashok Gulati's article just now saying it's too little too late, says the premier agriculture economist in the country. Next to that was an article by your friend Dr. Surjit Bhalla, who was once a member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, who believes this budget is revolutionary because the direct cash transfer, he sees these 6,000 rupees that are going to be provided as a form of direct cash transfer, which he feels are far better than the previous SOPs that have been handed, according to him, under the Congress and the UPA scheme.
Who started DBT?
Direct
the idea of
benefit
DBT
transfer
was started by the UPA. We announced DBT. We started with scholarships, ASHA worker payments. We introduced it for LPG and rolled out a pilot. So don't tell us about DBT. We are the authors of DBT. And in fact, we coined even in a Hindi phrase, aapka paisa, aapka haath or something. Therefore, DBT was our idea. You have taken that idea forward. You have transferred more benefits to DBT. I have no quarrel with that. I have no quarrel with the idea of DBT. Our minimum income guarantee will also use the DBT model.
Interesting you're mentioning minimum income guarantee, because that suddenly, MIG, if I may call it, has suddenly become your sort of answer, dare I say.
Don't even compare the two.
To the possibility that you knew that the Prime Minister was going to make a big ticket announcement in the interim budget 3 days before Rahul Gandhi makes the announcement. You, when I interviewed you earlier this week, were not even willing to spell it out. Obviously, has the party thought it through? You're in charge of the manifesto committee, or was that an announcement made simply somehow to preempt the BJP from its so-called surgical strike?
Firstly, this is not a big ticket announcement. This is a measly announcement. Secondly, are you accusing me of stealing the budget secret? I mean, this is rubbish. We have thought it through. We have been thinking it through. We've had meetings with economists. And this idea of a quasi-UBI or an adapted UBI has been discussed for the last several weeks, maybe a little longer. And then we decided that the Congress president will, on a suitable occasion, I did not know he was going to do that day, on a suitable occasion make an announcement that we are not going to stop with loan waiver. Look at the context. He was going to Chhattisgarh, addressing a farmers' rally. The farmers' rally was to thank the government for doing a loan waiver. But he said, we are not stopping at loan waiver. What I argued a little earlier.
Yes.
We are not stopping at loan waiver. We are going far beyond loan waiver. We are going to ensure that a minimum income guarantee for all the poor of India.
How is what you're planning or what you announced different from what the government has already made as first step? The Prime Minister says this is only a trailer.
Very different.
He says this is only a trailer, Mr. Chidambaram.
Very different.
You will see much more in terms of cash transfers. And we've seen some of it with Raitu Bandhu with Chandrasekhar Rao's government in Telangana, Kalia now with Naveen Patnaik's government in Odisha. This cash transfers is the flavor of the season.
It's more neat, it's more efficient. By the way, there are pluses and minuses to every scheme. Point is, what they've announced is so small, such a pittance, it won't make impact, number one. Number two, both Raitu Bandhu and what they have said will go to the owner farmer. It will also go to the absentee landlord. It will not go to the tenant farmer. It will not go to the Khet Mazdoor, the farm labor.
Or the sharecropper.
The sharecropper, yes. Tenant farmer.
Yes.
Sharecroppers, tenant farmer.
Yes.
Therefore, there are 4 kinds of farmers: owner farmer, absentee landlord, tenant farmer, and the Khet Mazdoor, the farm labor. Only 2 are taken care of. The other 2 are not taken care of. Besides, there are non-farm poor in rural India. Carpenter, tailor, street vendor, hawker, goldsmith, blacksmith, non-farm poor. Then there's urban poor. Your scheme does not deal with any of these categories, whereas the minimum income guarantee is for all poor families, farm and non-farm, urban and rural.
Let me for a moment then, since we are talking about the minimum income guarantee, ask you, is this now about competitive populism?
No,
as we build up into elections of 2019, in a sense, as the NDA is claiming, they've got the Josh and they've hit a sixer. They claim a triple sixer. One is they've tackled the neo-middle class by giving various tax breaks. Tax rebate now goes up to 5 lakh income. They've given various benefits to unorganized sector in terms of pension benefits. They claim, no, it is...
You're not willing to analyze it, that's the problem.
No, you tell me, for example, the pension scheme for the unorganized labor.
Please, they had a similar scheme 2 budgets ago. Have they junked it? The minister didn't say anything about that, but I understand they have junked it. There is no provision for that scheme anymore, and they've announced a new scheme and provided 500 crore rupees. So you announce one scheme 2 years ago, you junk it and announce another scheme, and you think that people's memories are shot, they won't remember what you said 2 years ago. Therefore, when the analysis takes place, when these things begin to unravel, people will know the difference between a jumla and a genuine promise.
These are large constituencies. They claim in the budget, farmers, small farmers, 12 crores will be benefited. Middle class tax breaks, which they are claiming, will account for 3 crores, and unorganized sector labor around 10 crores.
So they've already won the election according to you.
They are claiming that. Ab ki baar 400 par, 400, they are going to cross 400. My point is...
claim it.
My point is...
They claimed it in Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan also, that they're going to win by a thumping majority.
Well, I sense overconfidence possibly on their side, but I sense within you also a sense that none of these steps in your view will have any impact on the voter. At the end of the day, aren't you all both the major parties in the next few months simply targeting the voter through some kind of subs? And if you say that this hasn't been done by previous governments and it's an end of... All state governments, Karnataka, you had an election last year, your government does it.
For me? I'll answer your question.
Tamil Nadu, your state,
I'll answer your question.
Has done in the past various handouts.
If your questions can be short, there can be some answers. I am not disputing the right of a government to do political messaging, but I'm entitled to point out how the message is full of holes, how the message is not intended or cannot be intended to deliver the benefit it claims to deliver. That's all I'm saying. I'm willing to take scheme by scheme and point out the pluses and minuses and let the people decide. I have no quarrel with their right to political messaging.
As the author of the Dream Budget in 1996, which brought down rationalized tax rates, would you support what the government has done in terms of the tax breaks that they've been giving?
I would examine all options. There were 2 options at least. One was to increase the rebate. One was to revise the tax slabs. In 1997 budget, I revised the tax slabs. That has stood the ground for nearly 20 years or so. Those tax slabs which I announced. Then the rebate idea was suggested. We start 2,500 rupee rebate. They've raised it to 12,500. Now, if another party is in government or other parties are in government, they will sit down and weigh all the options. What I find fault is not that you have chosen one option. You should have chosen one of these options in the first 5 years of your government. You can't do it in the 6th year and make it clumsy for the next government to choose another option. Suppose there is a better option. You'll have to annul these amendments and then amend the Income Tax Act again. Isn't that a clumsy way of doing things in the middle of a year? That is not right. Therefore, you do whatever you want to do, whichever option you want to take, rebate option, tax slabs option. There is another one known as paid tax credit. There are many options are there. You choose any one of those options and try it out in the first 5 years of your government, not in the last year when you have no business to be doing that.
As you said, the speech had a strong political messaging. In fact, right at the very start, the interim finance minister said, I can proudly say that we bring out the country from policy paralysis. In a sense, suggesting that there was policy paralysis. Projects had been stalled in the UPA years.
What he was saying is that we have had policy paralysis in the last 4 years and 9 months. I'm bringing it out of policy paralysis.
No, that's how your
He's talking about his policy paralysis.
It was very clear that Mr. Piyush Goyal was giving a report card of his government and was also, and this is where I want to come to you, he seems to suggest that they inherited an economy where there were mounting NPAs, where there was a large swamp of black money. Again, he referred to demo in that context. And there was a general policy paralysis that led to stalled projects. They've revived the economy.
We're tired of hearing this. 5 years they keep on saying legacy issues, policy paralysis, which means they will leave no legacy. They will leave no incomplete program or incomplete scheme. Every government leaves behind a legacy. You take it for what it is, build on it, amend it, be more creative, do what you like. But constantly can't harp back to, like the example the BJP says, 70 years, nothing happened. You forget the Vajpayee, 6 years. You forget the Morarji Desai, Charan Singh, 2.5 years. You forget the VP Singh, Chandrasekhar, 2 years. Nothing happened in those years. Nothing happened in Jawaharlal Nehru's time. Therefore, what kind of a statement is this? You take the economy as you find it today and do your best for 5 years. All I'm objecting to is don't encroach upon the 5 years reserved for the next government. That is our fundamental objection. Now, whether the great policies that you announced yesterday have a positive impact on the people, let's wait and see. Already I've seen social media and channels. The farmers are reacting negatively to the 6,000 crore announcement. They've done the calculation and they say this is measly. Dr. Ashok Gulati at the other end, a scholar, India's foremost agricultural economist, has come to the same conclusion. The poor farmer in the village and Dr. Gulati have come to the same conclusion. This is too little, too late.
Will you give no credit, therefore, to your friend Piyush Goyal at all?
Oh, I will.
You know, because
I will.
Politics seems so polarized that no one seems willing to give any credit to government when you're in opposition.
Mr. Piyush Goyal, I was very happy. He was like a schoolboy who's got his first cup in a race. He was very happy that he got a chance to present at least an interim budget and try to make something more than an interim budget.
You're being condescending, sir.
No, I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy. But all I'm pointing out is, one, this was breaking conventions, and two, many of the promises were hollow. As we go over the next few days, we will analyze each one of them.
Therefore, let me ask you in conclusion. We are in an election year. Do you believe that the economy and the handling of the economy is going to be a critical issue? If I were to say to the voter of this country, Manmohan Singh's government, 2009 to 14, where you and Pranab Mukherjee at various times were finance minister, versus the 5 years of Arun Jaitley and this 6th interim budget of Piyush Goyal. Let's compare the two. Which of the two is the government that handled the economy better? Are you ready and open for that challenge?
Absolutely. Absolutely, we are ready for that challenge. That will be the main issue in the elections. The test really is, where are the jobs? There are no jobs. That is the main issue. Where is the investment? Private investment is in the doldrums.
You said jobs. Piyush Goyal in his speech said, when there is high growth, jobs are there.
Where are the jobs? You tell me that. The last anecdotal evidence is, for 90 jobs in Gujarat, some 9,000 people applied for peon, including PhDs. There are no jobs. Private investment is in the doldrums. Credit to industry is in the single digit. I can give you a dozen indicators, but these three indicators, just put these three indicators on your wall and ask yourself, if these are the three indicators, how can they be high growth?
They will also put their indications, inflation, bank NPAs climbing up, evergreening of loans. They will also put their indicators.
Correct. We won the election in 2009. We lost the election in 2014. Now let's put their indicators on the wall and let's wait for the result.
That's perhaps a good way, Mr. Chidambaram, to end this conversation. We'll have plenty more, I'm sure, in the lead up to the budget, in the lead up to the election, since you're saying the economy will be the dominant issue in these elections.
Jobs, investment, credit will be the dominant issue.
Mr. Chidambaram, as always, a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much. P Chidambaram, former finance minister, giving us the opposition's view on budget 2019. Thanks for watching.